Hello, Ray. This is a demo about the music for Athens. And Athens is sort of at odds with the forest. It's sort of the opposite of the forest, the way you seem to be describing it. It's a place that's so different that people have to go to the forest in order to be cured with what happens to them by being in Athens. So, what kind of opposition does this sound take? I think of one, that the music of Athens, the sound that human beings choose to make, is uh, not to put something better in the place of the forest or not something like that, but a sort of a realization that the forest is stronger than whatever the human beings can do. So a lot of the thing that the music is trying to do is cover up the sound that the forest makes, make something louder so that you don't hear it. What kind of music do they play? Well, we said that this world is not of a geography or time that we would necessarily recognize, so it could have influences or lack influences that are incredibly different from our world. So it could sound very different. The whole idea of musicianship, the whole idea of beauty could be completely different. And their music theory could be based on a very different psychology. The psychology that perhaps you're describing the Athenians as having is that they think that there's one answer for everything. There's one right answer. And so the notion of this music theory may be, how do you make a music theory that says there's one right answer to things? Well, one way to do it is you can maybe do something like with this violin. Most violins are tuned with, strung with 4 different strings, different notes, different pitches that form together and are played in many different ways with lots of different sounds coming together, so that that's what we consider beauty. But if Athens is a place that thinks that there's only one way to do it, maybe they have a violin like this, where these strings are all the same strings, and they're all tuned more or less to the same pitch. Because to the Athenians, the thing isn't to have a lot of different things work together, but the idea is to get back to the one thing as fast as you can. And different things tend to be sort of a problem, and they're not glorified very much in this music. They just kind of sound bad and make you want to get back to the root note. So there may be a lot of sounds that are like this. Where it's dissonant and then it goes back to the note, and it makes you want to get back to that single note because the differences sound bad. The other sound that I'm pretty sure you would hear in Athens is the sound of the human voice, because that's the place of the humans, and the humans are there saying, listen to the humans, don't listen to the forest. We know what's going on, you ought to throw in with us and don't go off there into the forest. There's nothing out there for you, and we can make ourselves sound pretty loud. So I think you're going to hear the human voice. And then I also think, of course, that we talked about the difference between a forest and Athens is acoustics. Athens has a lot of walls. They're boundaries. They're walls. They're rooms. They're barriers. You go this way, this way, all within hard surface walls. So whereas the forest is pretty open and has a kind of echo, but it's that kind of lush, bigger sound that a space would have. Athens has an acoustics that makes an echo that's pretty clear and tight, and that it gives you the feeling that you're surrounded by walls. So we have music to cover up the sound of the forest. We have the idea of a music theory where we resolve back to one note rather than trying to have a lot of notes, because that fits the psychology of that there's one way to do things and you should do it that way. We're going to have the human voice, so that because it's a human thing that's happening, and we're going to have the acoustics of some physical space that man has made with lots of walls and barriers, so it's pretty echoey. Here is a possible sound of what you might hear if you were in Athens. There's a gospel sound of a different world, a world maybe that's along the lines of the Athens that you want to create for Midsummer Night's Dream. Thanks, Ray.